Hello everyone, so this is my community contribution video, and the topic I want to focus on is interpreting mosaic plots with multiple variables, which is something I found quite hard when I was doing assignments and found that there are only limited resources online to help it. So here is a brief outline for my presentation today. I'm going to first do a quick overview on the example dataset I'm going to be using for the presentation, and then I'm going to provide some suggestions on how to do the interpretation. So the example dataset I'm going to be using today is the Titanic dataset, and the variables I'm going to be focusing on are four categorical variables. They are survived with two category of yes indicating passenger survived and no indicating passenger did not survive. And the second variable is the sex variable with two categorical level as well. One is male and the other one is female. And then it's the age variable with two levels of child and adult. And finally, we have a class variable to indicate which cabin class the passenger is in. And there are four levels in this variable, and they are first, second, third, and crew cabin class. So how can we do the interpretation on the mosaic plot when there are more than two variables included in the plot? So the intuitive behind my suggestion is actually a step-by-step approach. What I mean by that is for us to focus on one level of the variable each time when we are doing the interpretation, so that in the end, we could get the complete interpretation on the mosaic plot by combining the interpretation of each level. So here is the mosaic plot I made on the Titanic dataset using the four variables I previously mentioned, which is quite overwhelming to look at because there are a lot of elements included in this plot. So what I did is that I'm gonna be focusing on only one level at first, which is the first cabin class level because it is plotted on the x-axis. So here it is what kind of gonna be looking like if we are gonna be focusing on only the first cabin class level. So here, if we only focus on the highlighted part here, it is quite clear that child in the first cabin class have a higher survival rate because the number of child survived in the first cabin class is higher than the child who did not survive in the first cabin class. And secondly, I noticed that male children seem to have a higher level of survival compared to the female children, which is quite the contrary when we are looking at the adult passengers, because it is quite obvious that female passengers have a higher survival rate compared to the male passengers in the first cabinet class. And And so here is what I have concluded for the pattern I observed for the first cabinet class. And then we are going to repeat this process for each of the other level in the cabinet class as well. And in the end, by combining the interpretation we have for each level, we are going to be able to produce the complete interpretation on this four variable mosaic plot. So I personally find this approach quite helpful because first, it established a mindset for me to follow with so that I can analyze the pattern of the mosaic plot in a logical manner. And secondly, by focusing on only one level at a time, it allows me to reduce the complexity of analyzing the entire plot to only analyzing one level of the mosaic plot, which is something I'm more familiar and easier for me to do. And thus, this is what I have to offer to make the interpretation on the mosaic plot becomes easier. And thank you so much for your patience and time in listening this. Thank you so much.